the people that the people that have taken this as a course are going to be able to melt this together, kind of like when you binge watch a show on Netflix. But the people that have been watching casually probably don't remember our first sessions, and so I personally value the tie it together sessions the most as a learner, as someone like as a student. I enjoy the end because it's like, okay, tell me what I need to know to really start to make this happen. Right. Would you agree or?
Oh, dude, I like it because it's skimming through everything. You watch it the first time, go deep, 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 deep. And what I love about an end call like this is it's connecting the dots to all of it. And you're like, this is the picture now. And that's the whole point of today's is briefly hitting on all these things. We went super deep into pointing back to it. That way you can see the big picture of everything all in one place.
Yeah. Well, let's kick it off, man. You and I were sharing notes earlier today, and I really like, where you started, and just to kind of start to bring it home. So what was your first big take home point that you want us to make sure we take home with?
Well, I think the biggest thing that we need to recognize is what we've been, I'm just preaching the right word, I don't know, what we've been talking about, preaching, discussing, is really an approach, and really for a lot of you, probably a much different approach than what you've been taught in sales before. It's
right.
Less scripted than normal. It's less aggressive than normal. It's probably just a little odd compared to what you've been used to. And you probably, if I were in your shoes, I'd have some doubts about, okay, how does this work? And I don't blame you for that one bit. And it's really funny, I one random side note for the viewers is there's a trigger word I tell people in my coaching, and that trigger word is Grant Cardone, because I love Grant's mindset. I think Grant is successful despite him. His mindset is on point of I don't give up, right? He is one of the most persistent, tenacious human beings walking on the face of the earth. And he's successful because of it. It's not because of his strategy when it comes to converting leads. Like if you've ever seen his sales stuff, it's, dude, like just utter garbage.
It's very, very like beat them up over the phone.
Oh yeah, it's just hammer people over the head. And you win because you're doing it enough, which is, again, great. When you pair that mindset with psychology, because really to tie this together, this approach is meeting the psychological need that all humans have. And it's this need to feel like they are the most important person on the earth, to feel heard, understood, and valued, right? It's the most fundamental core driver of every human. And I don't care if you have this massive ego or no ego, you want the opportunity to share your thoughts and opinions. And really that's all we're teaching you is an approach in sales where instead of you trying to sell someone, you're selling yourself on them, and it's shifting it. And what's so crazy about it is it leads to you more easily understanding where they're coming from and how do we provide service at the highest level. Because service is not just about sending somebody homes, putting them on a saved search, right? Helping them transact and buy the first home they see. It's really about helping Barry and his family make the best decision possible for him and his family, no matter what that looks like. Right. And that's the long-term play. Sure, could I go sell Barry a house right away? You know what's really great is sometimes you need to talk people out of buying a home because it's the wrong place for them. And when you do that, it creates so much more long-term residual income. Like this isn't just about converting now leads. It's about converting a lead and treating them in a way that they feel compelled to share your name, to send you referrals, and to come back to you when they want to do something again. It's setting things up in the right manner so you can convert leads at an extremely high level now and set yourself up for long-term success.
Yeah, no, it's so freaking good. And it's humanizing lead conversion is really, and I almost, as you were talking, I kind of imagined just like chill, like They want a house. They
Right.
want a house.
Yes.
You don't have to force them. I've never met somebody that's stoked about getting rained on. Like, I just haven't. Like, they want a house.
Yep.
And if they can feel like you're a person that they don't mind working with, they're going to work with you. And I think, you know, and to me, when I hear you talk about this, you know, making the person feel heard, making them feel validated, you know, this isn't just a warm hug. Like, at the same time, while we're kind of hugging them through the phone, and if I'm paraphrasing, of course, you didn't say that, we're also influencing their journey because we're the professional. It's not either or. Right. And I think that's what people have done.
Yeah. Oh, and I would say we clearly have an agenda to have a conversation about their real estate needs, wants, and desires. There's zero doubt about that. We absolutely have an agenda because we are a business and not a nonprofit. This is one of the things I have to make sure that ISAs understand is we're not there to solve all their problems, because we can't a lot of times. We're there to help them with their real estate needs, right? Absolutely. What I will say, though, is although we have this agenda to understand where they're coming from, what their real estate needs, wants, and desires are, and really, honestly, it's pretty simple. It's finding out what they want, why they want it, when they want it, who's all involved. Like, it's who, what, when, where, and why, right? It's the most simple framework in the world. Along that, though, we're not attached to them doing something. Although we have this agenda, right? And I don't know if agenda is the right word. Maybe that's too loaded, but I'm going to use it anyways. We have this agenda of having real estate conversations in some way, shape, or form centered around them. We're not attached to them absolutely doing something. And the reason for that is when you're attached, you push. Subconsciously, when you're attached, when you need it, you accidentally push. I try getting into a house too soon. I try selling, a house. I start pushing you to buy a house. Maybe it isn't the right fit for you. So I think you have to have this agenda, and we have this clearly defined. What are we trying to do? What are we working through? Although it's very loosely navigated, because every human being goes a different path. There's never been two conversations with a human being that have gone the exact same way. There's always divergence. And that's why, dude, I hate scripts, right? Scripts perform well in very predictable manners when it's boom, 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 boom. And the problem is human beings innately are very unpredictable. You have no clue when you ask an open-ended question, what are they gonna say, right? If somebody tells you to F off in a text, I'm not afraid to ask the question like, hey, are you frustrated right now, or what's going on? Because when you
why are you being so mean?
What's going on? I can sense that, right? Because I'm not attached to the fact that they just told me that, right? That's obviously a very explicit version of it all. But what it really comes down to is we have this agenda, but we're not attached to it. And I don't need to sell them something, because that's what an attachment is I need you to transact. Rather, it's I would like you to, if that's what's best for you. If not, we're going to have that conversation. And my goal as a counselor, as an advisor, is to really help you make the best decision. And that means having a conversation about what you want, having a conversation about what you don't want, what you're maybe concerned about, what you're excited about. And don't get me wrong, some conversations you have, it is slam dunk. Someone tells you, I want to buy a house, I want to do this, and you don't go this super deep emotional route. And then sometimes you call that dad who just backed over and killed his son, and you're at a loss of words. You don't know what the hell to do. And the thing is that it's unpredictable. You have no clue. My favorite part, by the way, Barry, I wanted to name something is and we hit on this in the mirroring and matching one where we talked about DISC and the DISC assessment, right? I do this thing in my coaching calls where I ask people to guess how many people are high D's, how many are high I's, how many are S's, and how many are high C's. And almost always people get high C's correct, right? Accountants, engineers, it's 17% lead with their C, right? The two that people get drastically wrong, and they're usually pretty close to high I's. Usually we overinflate it because we're in real estate, there's I's everywhere. High I's, not I's. But what we see happen almost always is people always overestimate how many people lead with their D and vastly underestimate how many people lead with their S. And really, it's about 3 to 4% of people lead with their D. And when I tell you that, it makes sense because Ds are drawn to leadership positions, principals, right? CEOs, running the shows, managers. And there's always how many people that are not running the show. And then you have the Ds. It's very natural. It's how people are hardwired, and they are drawn to those type of roles. S's, on their hand, are the helpers, right? And if you think about a hospital or a school system, teachers, nurses. But the reason I bring this up is when we're talking to leads, people always say, well, that doesn't make sense because people are almost always high Ds on the phone. And what you need to recognize is when an S is afraid, right, of something, what they do is they puff up, they're ready to fight. So they come across as a high D because they have their wall up, right? But they're not really a high D. And the way you can tell the difference is a high D stays, right? Very direct, to the point, bold. And what happens is an S brings it down notches during a conversation. My point is that I'm not attached to who they are, what they want to do. I'm there to just honestly experience the conversation, text or voice to voice, and really just help them in the best way I possibly can.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And if you were to summarize the letters of the DISC, just to add context, D is like your CEO type, you said, right?
Yeah, direct, very direct. Dominant and direct would be the two words.
All right.
Yep.
I, what would you use for those?
Outgoing and social would probably be the yep.
S.
Steady and helpers. Steady helpers.
Okay.
Yep.
And then C.
I could use one word. They are your detail-oriented individuals. Details.
Yeah.
Systems.
Okay.
Yeah, they're very detail-oriented.
So what you're saying is someone that is an I, they're not normally a driver, but they happen to be, stating how they feel about something. Mm-hmm. And so they might come across as being a real hard person, but that doesn't mean that that's who they are.
No, it almost always changes. My favorite, it's a little more difficult to see this in text message conversations. On the phone, what you would see happen is you would literally see a temperature change where that's up, it's up, and then it comes down. And it's almost like they leave. I've seen this happen where they will go to a room and there's a pause, and then the more authentic version of them comes out. And it's very normal. And that's why we always call it mirroring and matching. Mirroring and matching does not mean you match who they are that one time, who they are in the beginning. You match that, and as they change, you're a chameleon. You change with them. If they turn yellow, you start turning yellow. They turn green, you start turning green, right? You change through the conversation. It's more, it's fluid, right? It's not set in stone.
Right. No, that's really good. And, the thing that I was thinking about that fits really well, I think, in this discussion, and so hopefully it doesn't derail our points too much. But, for me, I'm a 100% I, 100% S. So I'm a steady helper, and I have an at times unhealthy joy in making other people happy. Mm-hmm. So here I am on the phone, right? The person doesn't want to talk to me. Yeah. And I had to figure out, I knew they needed my help.
Yeah. Yes.
They didn't know that. They were ignorant to my relevance in their journey. And so I had to mentally care about them enough to not, I had to go deeper in their needs and wants than just their quick negative response, because I recognized, they are looking for a home. They just don't like talking to strangers about it, or salespeople. Right. But I kind of want you guys to get this mental picture. Like, here I am. I don't know any of this stuff. I'm in my little silo at an indie brokerage in Virginia Beach, not exposed to any of the cool stuff that everybody else is. And I'm just like this. I want to please. I'm just like a puppy. And I ended up getting there with the leads because I was like, no, wait, I know you don't want to talk to me, but listen, I don't like talking to salespeople either. But you asked for information online about a home, and can we just talk for a second? I promise I won't bother you, but did you find a house? And so I got there by I figured it out with my personality how to keep going.
Yep.
And I think what's great about what you're sharing is you're not telling us how to validate them and make them feel heard. You're saying this is important to them. And then how we do that depends on our makeup. You might not do it the same way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. One thing we should do quick, and it's going to layer in exactly what you just said is, we had 5 lessons before this, Barry, right? We had number 1 is mindset. Number 2 is reframing the conversation. 3 was digging deeper. Number 4 was challenging their thinking. And number 5 was mirroring and matching, right? The funny thing about what you just said was all in our mindset lesson where we said you need to be confident in your abilities. And almost like, for me, I created this unhealthy obsession that maybe it was healthy. It probably wasn't healthy. It was healthy in the long run, but it felt weird. And it sounds weird when I say it. But when other people decided to work with a crappy agent, that became my bad. It was almost always because I didn't follow up. I didn't have the confidence or the courage to push back and keep the conversation going. I think one thing you should recognize is you're going to encounter resistance in a conversation, voice to voice or text, always.
So good.
Are you willing and you have the confidence to push past that resistance? And what I think both you and I would agree with is when you push past that initial resistance, as long as your heart's in the right place and you're not there to screw them, I almost guarantee you that wall will come down. You will do it in your own way. We're talking mirroring and matching. I almost guarantee you when you're talking to that super high CD accountant, you naturally mirrored and matched. Your eye came down. You probably wanted to go vomit after the conversation or take a nap, right? Because it feels so different. But the mindset piece there is, one, you can't be there to sell people. That's pretty, I think, commonplace at this point. You should understand that. But number 2, you do need to be confident in extending that conversation and pushing past that initial resistance and having the confidence knowing that if you give up, that this person could go work with that first agent they submit a Zillow inquiry through, and now they're working with a really crappy agent, and now that's your fault. And for me, it became like this mission and it's still my mission, man, to be completely honest. I mean, what's really great about almost everybody that's watching this, you're probably buying into this stuff. You're helping other people. You're trying to innovate. The fact that you're paying to use Ylopo shows you're investing more in your business and your own self-growth than 90% of this industry. Like, dude, 90% of the agents, they scare the hell out of me. And they treat people so poorly. They're terrible. They sell 6 homes a year. Is there anything out there, right? Could you imagine, like, yeah, I'm a good basketball player. How many times do you play basketball? I don't know, like 6 times a year. Yeah, dude, NBA all day. Get in, right? Like, it just makes no sense. Right. And it's normal in this freaking industry. And we wonder why it's so ripe for displacement. Well, it's because we have very low barriers to entry. We have TV shows that make it seem like you're going to make $1 trillion without working. Sorry, that's fake news. You got to actually work, and you got to work nights and weekends. It's a part of any successful entrepreneur I've ever met, right? And you can leverage yourself eventually, no doubt about it. It's going to cost you something. And I think you have to have this mindset of when they're stuck working with those people, that was my bad, and I think you said the same thing or something similar of you had to push back that first resistance, even though everything in your personality was like, nope, I'm gonna hang up. I'm bothering them. Nope, I'm not gonna do it. That's probably what internally your soul is saying, but you had the courage to push back past that. And frankly, it's one of the most difficult skills to develop because
especially, I mean, for anyone, frankly, for S's, it's really anyone. So I think you're 100% right.
Well, dude, like that's what I say in my huddles. Like the part about, pushing through, and, a lot of other agents are just, they're going to sell the house because it has a bonus on it or a better commission. You're good people. And the thing is, good people, and I'm going to generalize, a lot of times aren't great salespeople, because in the normal space of life, someone pushes back. We're like, okay, I'll leave you alone. That's just how we do. And now I've got to adjust my instincts on how I deal with, the situation of the person. And so let's just all collectively stop being surprised when they tell us why they don't need our help. Yeah. I think that the general public knows about 10% of my role.
Yeah.
They know that I can open a door.
Yeah.
They're ignorant to the 90%, my highest and best value. And so I just need to approach it with that mindset that, okay, they don't get it. I'm going to help them get it. And I'm going to be persistent in the way that is a helpful persistence. And what's really cool about this subject, and then I'll let you go to your next point if you want to, but what's really great about this subject is I've been able to scale my business off of gatherers instead of hunters. People that normally would not have been successful in real estate because they thought they had to like have a frontal lobe lobotomy, and change everything about who they are. They can stay that way. In fact, I'm calling them to be an even better person because it's uncomfortable at first.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, this is so good. Yeah. So good. Robby T.
I love it, man. I'm sad that this is number 6. We're going to have to
I know.
We'll launch another one. We'll do it. We'll find a way.
Absolutely. So what's the next point that you had?
The second one, well, remember, that's all mindset. I think we've really hit that. I hope you see the perspective that we're coming from. I'm sure they do. I think I'm really glad we dove into that, of having that confidence again. Number 2 was reframing, right? Reframing really meant stop calling people and saying, when do you want to go view 123 Main Street? Or what questions do you have about 123 Main Street? Or what questions do you have about real estate? Inherently, what you're doing is you're setting yourself up massively for failure. One, they'll say the thing of, I don't need your help, I don't have any, whatever. So you're screwed in that. Secondly, though, in that conversation, when what you need to recognize is the person asking questions always controls the conversation. You're literally giving the keys of the conversation to them, and you have no clue where it's going to go. That agenda piece we were talking about earlier, gone. It's now whatever the hell they want to talk about. Their cat, it could be whatever, and you've lost control of it. And it becomes, the longer they're doing it, the more uncomfortable it becomes. The other big thing we need to recognize is the moment in that model you disclose information that doesn't fit their criteria or what they want, what happens is they mentally check out. The moment you tell them the home has 4 beds or 3 beds and they want 5, they don't care about you anymore. It's a lot more difficult to stay on the phone or in that conversation, to stay in that with them. And really reframing the conversation means, instead of you reaching out and asking what questions they have about real estate, it means reaching out and getting them to talk about themselves. Are you just kind of looking for fun, Barry? Or are you thinking about making a move sometime soon? Even if Barry says, no, that I'm just looking for fun, I'll say, great, well, what had you interested in real estate? I'm still talking about you. And it's shifting it, is changing it from being about a piece of property, 123 Main Street. The interesting thing, Barry, this is a funny tidbit. Okay, if you use Zillow, not everybody does, but let's say you use Zillow and you're Flax, it doesn't matter, right? A Zillow lead comes in. You know what Zillow preaches to their people is they say, agree to that showing, like that, get out, show that home, really don't do anything else, right? And the funny thing is, I've always pushed back against that. I think that's a disaster waiting to happen, because now you're agreeing to show a property to someone you have no clue about. It was somebody has a Zillow profile that they created. We don't know anything about them. Okay, I'm not a fan of that. I don't like putting people in vulnerable situations. I think it's a terrible business move, frankly. But secondly, now your value proposition is opening that door. And great agents can transition that when they're in the house with them.
towards being about something besides that house, it's really difficult to do. The moment they walk into the house isn't a good fit for them, they mentally check out and they're not a huge fan. So the funny thing is, we are statistically, from what we heard this a few months ago, the top converting Zillow team in the country. And we kind of do the opposite, right? We dive into, and don't get me wrong, we'll acknowledge that we'll go and show them a house, but we take this approach and we dive into, well, by the way, what caught your attention about this house? It's really that simple, right? Just reframing it and getting it to be about them. And what's cool about that is our value proposition at that point is no longer we're going to open a door for you. It is now we're going to help you get what you need, want, and desire. When you change the frame of the conversation from being about the house to being about Barry, you know what happens is the value proposition shifts from being a gatekeeper. And we've talked about how if your value proposition is being a gatekeeper, that is eroding every single day. There are tech companies taking chips at it. And I don't blame them. This is America. This is capitalism, my friends. This is how the game works, all right? I can't get mad about that. It's just a part of the game. I can't like the capitalism game when it benefits me and then hate it when it disadvantages me. Like, come on, man. Anyways, the point behind it is they're chipping away at that value proposition because that's what tech does. Tech allows somebody from my dang phone to do how many things on this dang thing, and it displaces how many opportunities, other jobs, other industries. It's just a reality.
Yep.
In order for you to compete with that, you need to make it about Barry, because my value proposition is no longer just showing you a house, being a gatekeeper, giving you information. It's now helping Barry get what he wants, because that's all we've talked about. And it creates, there's this thing I call it's subconscious alignment. If Barry and I are in a texting conversation or voice to voice, when we're talking about Barry and what he wants, what you need to realize is subconsciously is, who's he having this conversation with? Me. Subconsciously, he starts attaching Robby's the guy that had this conversation all about what I want. Well, what does that mean? It's very natural. Oh, this guy works in real estate. He can help me get it. It's easy at that point. So anyway.
Absolutely. No, it's so good. And you got my wheels spinning, man, because such a great way to remind ourselves, of our true value. And it's refreshing when you're working with someone that thinks ahead. So we have like these unique selling propositions for our teams, like we've got a VIP buyer program. And what I told my agents, I said, look, I live in Virginia Beach, and we have these guys that stand on the corner and, free gas cards, free gift card to so-and-so restaurant. And that's what they're selling. That's what they're offering. And it's so that they can set appointments for the timeshare businesses so that, you put them in the pressure cooker, sell them a timeshare. Yeah. And I said, look, guys, don't call people and sell the VIP buyer program.
Right.
You sound like the guy on the corner selling free gift cards. I said, you need to do it. We got this program, but honestly, let's talk about this. And that's what you just did. You said, yeah, I'll show you the home, but let's get some substance out of this call. We're on the phone. Let's go somewhere, Right. And this is where, the reframing is it. That's why I don't like the phrase objection handling, because it's just getting them to focus on the right stuff. Right. And in many ways, it's like your child, you love your child, but sometimes your child says or does something that is not what you want them to do. And so you've got to redirect them onto something else. And, I've been learning a lot about behavior management and stuff with some of the classes I've been taking for children. And, sometimes it's just as simple as they're obsessing about something they can't do. And then you're like, oh, wow, when did you get this red block? Yeah. And that's really what you're doing. You're saying, yeah, we'll show you the home, but let's talk about something that I can actually, you can get off the phone and feel a little bit better about this process. Let me take the weight off your shoulders, because you're carrying a heavy load of this process, and let me help you navigate it. And you metaphorically put your arm around them and just start taking them down the pathway. So reframing is a compassionate response to someone going a direction that they don't want to go.
And you hit on something both earlier and right now that's so key. And you said this earlier, and I just remembered I wanted to hit on it. you mentioned that we need to recognize that leads don't actually know oftentimes what they actually need. And that maybe sounds egotistical. I think maybe it's just for me and you being confident. And the way I justify that is, how often does somebody buy or sell homes? Every 7 years? I mean, dude, tell me about the world back in, just tell me about the world back in January.
Right.
How much the world has changed. We saw, and that's the cool thing about business, is we saw the adoption of tech. That's the biggest thing people are saying in the entrepreneurship world is tech got adopted at what they thought would take 5 to 7 years. Happened in months, got condensed. We were forced to do it because you had people like my grandma and my parents that are forced to now use technology in a way that usually would take a long time for them to even think about, right? Things don't happen like that. And what we need to recognize is if I'm buying and selling a home every 7 years, am I the expert? No, I have no clue. Dude, I work in real estate. Y'all want to know how much I know about real estate? Zero, nada, nothing, guys. Right. I know nothing. I bought a house. The house I'm currently in like a month ago. I didn't buy it myself. No chance. I don't know how the hell that works. I don't need to. That's what my agents on our team are for. And that's the thing is I work in the industry and I'm abreast to how things are changing. Most of these people, they think about this once every 7 years. Do you know much about something you do once every 7 years? I tell you what, FSBOs will think that they do. No doubt about it. High Cs. High Cs think they know everything about it. But what I've recognized is I need to have the confidence to be able to guide them through their misunderstandings. A really good example of this, Barry, is of reframing. Because you're right, it's not just a one-time thing. It's redirecting. It's a great way to put it. If you have a lead that says they want to work directly with the listing agents or with the listing agent, it's very common out there. It's one of the common objections. And I hate the term objection handling too, because almost always I turn that into a question of like, help me understand that, Barry. And next thing you know, they're like, well, I can save money if I work with the listing agent. No, you don't. That's fake news. They don't know that because they don't work in the industry. They don't understand that. They don't understand how co-brokes work. What they don't understand is that if you do that, that person actually keeps all 6% and doesn't really represent you besides giving you paperwork that is literally geared towards your opposition in this negotiation. You're getting screwed. So
pretty much,
I need to be able to articulate that. Yes. Okay. I understand logic and how that works. But what really matters is that's reframing it, right? And it's redirecting it. But it's having the confidence to know that, oh, this person might not be 100% right. They might want to just go view a house because Zillow, again, hasn't trained them to do that. And others, it's not just Zillow. It's right. If I didn't work in the industry, I'd just think, oh, I just click a button, they show me a house. That's how I get good service.
Right.
Another thing is, no, you don't, because guess what happens? You click that button, sometimes it goes to a really crappy agent, you get crappy service, or they don't respond. Yep. The house, especially in a market like this, sells in one day, right? Everybody can relate to this. And now you just miss out on your dream home because an agent who was supposed to get connected with you or something like that maybe dropped the ball. And again, in this industry, I don't trust to do the job right. So I think what you need to do is you need to recognize these people oftentimes don't know what's in their best interest. I like to relate it. I love investing. Mm-hmm. Right? Investing, and by investing, I mean buying stocks, bonds, index funds, buying real estate. And there's so many misconceptions, man, about like who's got your best interest in heart. And I read about this every day for about 20 minutes. And I'm still clueless with investing. I'm still trying to put the pieces of the web together because it's crazy. What's the best strategies? What things should you be doing? I'm a high C, so I'm a weirdo, right? I always like to do things myself. I'm the a-hole that I was referring to earlier, by the way. I am that guy. But what it really comes down to is from the vast majority of people, they recognize is you need to earn the right to influence them, to be a truth teller to them. And when you do that, you dispel misunderstanding or ideas that they have. Those aren't objections almost always. It's misunderstandings. And you approach that much differently. Objection says I need to push back. Misunderstanding says I need to educate you on the correct idea. So what it really comes down to is viewing it that way, having that confidence. And I loved your phrase of redirecting. You're 100% right.
Yeah. And so to use your example, Robby, about a buyer wanting to use a listing agent, I'll tell you how we handle that using this redirection, knowing this is bad. What they've just said is bad for them and they just don't know it. Right. So I'm not offended. I'm not scared. I'm like, oh, they're going to screw up with the largest purchase of their life. John, I'm assuming you want to do that because you're going to save money. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah. I mean, 3%, that's a crazy amount of money. I'd want to save $10,000 too. That's a lot of money. One quick fact that I'm not sure you know, in Virginia, you actually have to sign a document that says that your agent can't have an opinion. So basically what you're doing is you're giving up $10,000 to not have anybody represent you. They effectively are not allowed to tell you what to do. Now, this is specific to my market. So that being said, John, there's a couple of things we can do to save you a lot of money beyond just saving on commission. So I educated through it. I'm like, it's a no-brainer. You're making a mistake. Let's go. That's that confidence piece. But what I tell my agents to do, every time a conversation ends with something that's like, there's no clear next step. Like it ends with, hey, I'll send you properties. There's nothing there. Right. Write down the reason that they told you that they don't need you right now. Write it down. Write down the scenario. Let's collect all of them and let's just talk about what they needed and in the moment and how you can handle it the next time you hear that. So there's no way we're getting through all the sessions, by the way.
Well, we'll try. We might have to trim some stuff, but
am I messing with your C? Am I messing with it by saying that?
Yeah, you're good.
I'm just kidding.
I think really well between my C and your I. But we both have the S. We both have that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's sassy.
Yeah, sassy. That's what I call my daughter once in a while.
Oh yeah, that's so good.
We go to number 3.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, it isn't crazy. Like those were the first 2 calls. Mindset, reframing, go back to them. Number 3 was digging deeper. And I actually think we can breeze through this one. Really digging deeper. We kind of just hit on it is when somebody brings things up, don't just settle for that surface level response. Dig deeper and ask another question. And the best example I ever give is somebody saying, well, I want to get a bigger home because my family's on the grow. And there was one time where somebody said something to that effect. Because what my brain hears when somebody says their family's on the grow is, oh, baby's on the way, right? It's just very normal, right? I think it would be like a Barry situation. Baby's on the way. My family's growing. That's normal. The reality is that could mean so many other different things. And what happened was there was one time where somebody said, yeah, we're looking at getting a bigger place because my family's on the grow. And I said, oh, congratulations. When's the baby due? And sure as heck, the person I was speaking to really quickly, first off, you could tell they were offended. And what had happened was their father-in-law had just passed away and mother-in-law was moving in. In other words, I was the a-hole who just congratulated somebody on their father-in-law passing away. Was that my intent? No. Not at all. And I will say this, it's incredibly difficult to recover from that. It almost impossible. And again, it's not my intent. No matter how much I apologize, I look foolish. And really, the whole point of digging deeper is one simple idea. It's the idea that your mind is constantly making assumptions. Both of us, you and I are hardwired differently. Barry, you grew up in a different time, a different place than me. And with different upbringings, you have different values, right? We might have a lot of similar overlap, but there might be trigger words that are going to impact you differently from me. And vice versa, right? We're different human beings. You will hear things differently than I hear them because you're a different person. And what I've learned is I have to completely, if I actually want to understand people, I need to sideline my assumptions, not avoid them. It's not possible. You will never stop your mind from making assumptions. It's not possible. But what you can do is use a system. Really, the system is turning their answers into another question to make sure there's not more depth behind what they just said. That way, when someone says, I'm looking to get a bigger home because my family's on the grow, I can say, okay, Barry,
So your family's on the grow and you're looking for a bigger house. Tell me a little bit about what's going on. When I do that, what happens now is then Barry tells me, well, my father-in-law just passed away. My mother-in-law's moving in. I now am going to approach that much differently compared to, well, we're actually expecting twins. By the way, the funny thing of like things I've heard when somebody said their family was on the grow is, baby on the way, twins, triplet. I can't remember if I had triplets. I know I had twins. Puppies are on the way, a litter of puppies. I don't know why you need a new house for that. Big puppies, maybe. I don't know. Horses, they're adopting a horse, right? Adopting their drug-addicted sister's kids was another one I've heard. And then mother-in-law moving in. So you just don't know. You don't know what the answer is. And so don't assume it. Don't allow yourself to get tricked by your silly little brain who is hearing something that they may not actually be saying. And it's very normal. It happens all the dang time. So I just learned that was my defense mechanism to avoid having that happen anymore in a variety of ways. So digging deeper is all about having your assumptions.
Yeah, I think, honestly, this is one of your least recognized points. And I think it's one of the most powerful. Another way you've taught the Ylopo community is the tell me more, right?
Yeah.
And versions of that. I think that has had a profound impact. I know on my team, they've learned to dig deeper just by that phrase.
Yeah.
For me, I think that, when you're approaching digging deep, what I tell my agents is approach it with extreme humility. So an easy example is the person says they want to rent a house, right? Okay. Don't respond and say, oh, do you have bad credit? Right? That's arrogant, right? Right? So oh, are you broke? Say, so what I tell my agents to say is, oh, are you in a period of transition? Are you moving out of the area in a few years?
Yeah.
Right. So now it's like a perfectly legitimate reason to rent. Oh, no, I just, figured I wasn't sure if I could buy. Boom. Now you go. But you didn't offend them. So when you're trying to dig deeper, if you always go the ways I do it are I use a very respectful scenario of when I'm trying to find out. So I'm trying to find out by giving them an example of what I think they're saying. But my example is always very respectful in elevating them and diminishing me. Yeah. And people love it because we all love to be complimented. You know what I mean? And sometimes we'll make a statement like, oh, are you staying in the area and then we just don't say anything. And then they'll pick up on that and they'll just finish the sentence for you. So this is a big topic that it's not that we don't have a lot more that we could say, but it is really important for sure.
And if you do ever think you need to take a stab at naming something you think is going on, the power of what you just did, Barry, was you didn't say it as you are doing this. You actually, when you're ending with or, you're leaving room for them to correct you. You're turning it really into an open-ended question. For me, my approach is turning it into as open-ended in some way. So I'd say, got it, Barry. So you're thinking about renting. Help me understand that a little bit better. And usually what it leads to I was thinking about buying a home. We have credit issues. Okay, tell me about that. What does that look like? Dude, as odd as it sounds, people would tell me everything. Social Security, all of it. They'll just name all of it. They don't care because people, and I've always said this, I get very afraid sharing some of this stuff because you could go out there and if you have the wrong intent, you could really screw human beings. Jordan Belfort proved that in The Wolf of Wall Street, right? Is you can use language and you can come across as a trusting human being and screw people. I really hope that's not you. But the reality is people will share all this vulnerable information because I'm just asking questions and making them feel like they're visible. And it's really important. But yeah, the reason I quit calling it Tell Me More is what happened was when I said Tell Me More, people would just sit there and be like, tell me more about that. Tell me more about that. Tell me more about that. And it's not a script. It's a mindset. It's help me understand it a little bit more. Or could you explain that a little bit further? Tell me about that. Tell me more about that. It's a mindset. So it's really digging deeper. Tell me more is the tool to do it, right? Digging deeper is the
it is not the solution.
Correct.
It's definitely not the solution.
You'll sound robotic as heck, so don't do that. Yeah,
it's good.
Fun. All right, should we go number 4?
Yeah, absolutely.
In lieu of time, so we actually get it done. So number 4, challenging their thinking. Really, the simplest way that we could put this in a nutshell is if somebody tells you they're looking to do something, have the courage to present an alternative that may be appealing. Don't say you need to do it, but ask the question of, would you do it? So if somebody, the best example, we did this with the Hatch ISA, was when somebody says, I'm just looking for fun, we then make sure to say, got it. So you're just kind of curious at this point, but let's say the ideal home were listed tomorrow. Would you consider viewing that, or would you miss out on that opportunity? That's one of the best questions I've learned to ask in that initial conversation, because it gets those no's and turns them into a soft no, or maybe, or even a yes. So challenging their thinking is just presenting an alternative that maybe they haven't considered to get them to think a little bit differently. Yeah.
And I think this fits in one of the earlier points really well of redirecting, because this is how I do that. So they say something. We love questions. Okay. Our team, we really have melted our scripting into 4 questions that we don't ask. Have you been approved? Do you have an agent? What kind of home do you want? We find all that out through asking questions that are like close. We're in that general region, and it ends up naturally and organically surfacing it. Well, when they respond and they tell us something that's bad or incorrect or is going to mess them up, we challenge their thinking by telling them, and we use phrases like, a lot of times I hear my clients saying, or something that's very popular in our area, or, over the years I've seen people do. And so and then you tell them what they should be doing without saying, you need to do this, because they don't trust us yet. So like, I got to think less of myself, that just because I'm the professional doesn't mean they know that. And I've got to learn to kind of warm them up to me. So love the challenging the thinking, because I think if you approach it as a waiter or a waitress, which is a respectable career, but if you approach it as that, you're waiting for them to tell you what to do. Oh, you want cheeseburger? Would you like fries or tater tots? Right? Like, it's not, what's the best food on the menu or something. And I've got to actually like think and analyze and apply. As a counselor and a guide, that's what we're doing. We're giving direction, and you can't give direction without sometimes changing the topic and redirecting and reframing and all the things we're talking about. So you're getting me all hyped up, man. Shame on you.
Well, and I'll name a really cool psychological principle on why this works. So if you've ever read Thinking Fast and Slow, it's one of the best psychology books probably ever written. And I'm not even going to say the author's name, because I would butcher it. I'm terrible at that. I have that authorization because my last name sucks, so I just go by Robby T as well. Anyway, so here's what they found. There's a very interesting thing in psychology known as anchoring. And what anchoring really means is, I could think a thought a year ago, and when I'm asked a question about that thought a year later, there could be a ton of other information that's changed about that information. But if you ask me, my immediate response is to go back to my 1 year response a year ago. It's called anchoring, right? This is why like confirmation bias exists and these types of things. And you look for what you already know, which is how our brains work. It's assumption. So a good example is if you're talking to a lead and they tell you that they're a year out. They could have thought they were a year out 6 months ago. And they just said a year out because that's what they internally told themselves. They had a conversation, and it's weird, right? But humans have conversations with themselves. Like, that's how our brains work. We're constantly doing this. Or maybe they had a conversation with a spouse and they're a year out. Well, here's the thing. What's 12 minus 6, Barry?
No, 6.
Right? 6. Do you think that they're going to tell you they're 6 months out?
Yeah.
Never. They'll never do it. Because our mind is anchored to 12 months.
Misunderstood the question.
They don't update it. That's why you gotta challenge it, right? You got to get them on track, right? So
they're always going to say it's a year out. So I misunderstood the question.
Until something really, really changes. It's anchoring.
Right.
It happens all the dang time with human beings. It's just psychology 101. Our minds take the shortest path. The shortest path is the path that's already made in your brain. What happens in your brain is you're creating this pathway through something that's really kind of known as myelin. What happens is you do it once, and that's the quickest path, so your brain just fires to it. Even if a year passed, people will say, I'm a year out. That's just how the brain works. It's kind of crazy. So.
Right. Well, no, and I think I use this illustration, but, you know, my dad runs, first of all, your ability to clarify what's going on in the human brain is really impressive. And I think it adds a lot of weight to kind of the direction that we're going in this. So just wanted to give credit to where credit's due. But the karate studio, they teach Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and normally, and you know, if you're fighting somebody, you run into them and you clash. But in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, you're doing this, and as soon as you clash, the guy goes like this. He uses their momentum almost against them. And in this scenario, oh, you want to go a year out? Let's go. What does that look like? You know, I'm gonna go where you're going. Where are we going? Oh, you want to wait a year? Okay, what's that look like? What are you doing in a year? You know, and you can do it in a real fun way. And the example that I used, I think, in the class was in the previous session was I belittle myself. I don't know what I'm having for dinner. How do you plan a year away? Right. So now I'm trying to learn from them, and they're going to share that they don't have 99% of the time. They don't have a plan. And they're like, oh man, no, I don't really have one. I'm like you, Barry, you know, so now we're relating. I'm like, oh, okay. You don't have a plan. All right. So, you know, and then we can just keep going, you know, so just go where they're going and just kind of adapt to them. So
exactly. I love it, man. That's it's a Barry spin on challenging their thinking. That's gold. It's for the high out there.
I am to a fault. My wife actually tells me, she's like, you spin everything, and I'm like, I can't help it.
Same here. My wife gets mad at me because I can't take my coaching hat off, even in the marriage sometimes. Yeah, it's not good, friends. Sometimes we heard, understood, and valued. I effed that up, just so you all know. Talking about this stuff, but I screwed up too. I learned that lesson the hard way.
Yeah, so, my wife's like divergent, like none of the stuff. Like she just like slices right through it.
That's funny.
Okay,
number 5, right? Yeah. We have 4 minutes left.
All right, let's go. I'll be quiet.
Mirroring and matching. I think we already hit on this, man. We did. A chameleon. We hit on it earlier. Be a chameleon. Mirror and match really just means change yourself to be more like them. I think the big thing is a lot of people have viewed that as being manipulative, and I've just always viewed it as the highest form of empathy in my point of view. When I'm speaking to a high I like Barry, I become more social and outgoing, and I really literally begin to see the world less like I normally do and more like Barry does. And that helps me because my intent is to help and in all situations help other people. It's what I do, right? I've transitioned in my life that my calling is just to serve other people. And the more I can do that in a variety of ways, that's what I do. And I've learned that mirroring and matching is less about, and don't get me wrong, I think when you mirror and match, other people feel more comfortable around you. But the bigger thing for me is I can see things much differently. And when I see things much differently, it helps me gain a better understanding of what someone is going through and more importantly, how they may be able to be helped. So I think that's what mirroring for me at a really high level.
And I'll just say, I like to call mirroring and matching relating to the person.
Yeah.
That's relating to them in action. And so that makes me not feel like I'm manipulative. I'm trying to just connect with them. And so I see it as a good thing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say about that.
I like it. That's the shortest one we did right there. 2 minutes.
I know.
Dude, I think this is probably the best one yet just because it's fluid and ties it all together. Like if somebody, let's be real, you high Ds out there, you're not going to watch all of them. There's no way. Heck, you're all real estate agents. You're all busy as heck. I get it. You're wearing 87 different hats, your transaction coordinator, whatever it all might be. But this one will be, I think, the one that we can point people to of like, watch this first, which is funny because we recorded it last. Watch this first, and then you can go deeper into other ones, get a little more tactics from each one.
That's actually a really good idea. That's a really good idea because we're floating. And then I will say that I think when you're trying to change your instincts, then that really, when we're talking to someone, what we say next normally is instinctive. We're not a robot. And so I don't think that listening to us talk about this, you get off of it and you're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go do that. That's not how people normally, that's not how this works.
No.
You've got to change how you respond to circumstances, and it's never going to be the way you practiced it. And so that's why going through each session and really just letting the weight of it, I think it's going to be really powerful. Honestly, I think this is going to impact a lot of people's businesses positively. And credit to where credit's due, Robby. The outlines, you put these together, right? You carried the heavy burden of this masterclass, and so kudos to you for what you're doing in the community. Hatch ISA continues to crush it. 45% higher appointment ratio, and you're also a consultant slash ISA coach. Is that right? Is that the good way I say it?
I just say nerd, but yes.
Okay. Well, but we need to put some, and the best way, if somebody, I didn't tell you I was going to do any of this, but I'm doing it. If somebody wanted to reach you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah. So either Facebook me. Unfortunately, I hit the 5,000 Facebook friend requests, so I can't add more people, but you can message me and I consistently check that. Or Robby T at hatchcoaching.com. ROBBYT, not IE, at Hatch Coaching, HATCH coaching as it sounds.com. Or Facebook, or reach out to Barry. Barry's in the group. You can nudge him and he can introduce us as well. Whatever.
Yep.
That's what we're here for.
And I've spoken to a lot of teams and agents that have utilized your training and services. And never once have I heard an agent or a group say nothing but glowing results. So Robby didn't know I was going to do this, but he invests so much in the community. I think it's the right thing to do to just let everybody know that if you'd like more of his time, it's very valuable. He doesn't have a lot of it, but you can contact him, and I appreciate it, man. I learned a lot. So I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it as well, brother. You're going to make me cry. Sensitive comes out, the S Robby.
All right, man. Well, listen, you have a great New Year's. I'm going to go see if this baby's born.
Sounds good. I hope it goes well.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you for helping being a guide through all this. You brought invaluable advice to all these people as well. So appreciate that as well.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. All right. Have a great rest of your day.
Sounds good. Peace, y'all. See ya.
All right.